Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 143. In the last episode, we heard from Jesse Wisnewski and Jeff Brown about their new book, Read to Lead, and I am a total bookworm, such a nerd, but I love it. So I absolutely love the last episode. If you haven't read it, definitely go back, take a listen, because there's so many good things. Even if you didn't feel like you were good in school and reading isn't your thing, listen to it. There was so many good takeaways. I promise you're not going to regret it. So today, I'm going to share a few reasons why Jeff and Jesse are so badass. Let's get to the episode. Okay. 3 reasons why Jeff and Jesse are so badass. First, they both had setbacks. They could have easily quit and given up, but they didn't. Forgive me, my dogs are walking around. I feel like as soon as I start recording, they start moving about the room, and I have hardwood floor, so that's what you're hearing in the background. But Jeff and Jesse were so persistent, and they persevered through the hard times. They let those hard times propel them forward, or give them ammunition, or give them like the grit that they needed to push them forward instead of giving up and quitting. And Jeff talked about how he lost his job, and this wasn't the first job that he lost. And so he started thinking like, okay, why am I relying on other people when this clearly isn't working for me? And so he used that losing of a job to motivate him to start his own business, to do his own thing. That's when he started the Read to Lead podcast. So many people would have just given up or gotten depressed, talked bad about themselves and like the kind of person that it made them, and, you know, told all sorts of stories about what losing that job meant. But Jeff used that as fuel, and I love that. Where in your life has something bad or something hard happened to you? And how can you use it as fuel? How can you use it to motivate you to be the badass that you are? That's what I want to see. So look at those things and then find a way that you can use those to motivate you and push you forward and to encourage you, not to bring you down. And then Jesse, he was also badass. He failed English in high school. Then when he got to college, he had to do remedial English. And he said that he was able to get into grad school, but his scores for English were low. So he had to, were low on the GRE. So he had to do remedial writing course in grad school. It's not easy failing. It is not. But on the other side of it can be something epic. So again, Jesse failed in high school, so he could have quit. He could have given up and been like, I'm no good at English. And if he had done that, he probably wouldn't have written this book. So he didn't give up in high school. He didn't give up in college. He didn't give up in grad school. Everything is not easy. But what I've learned is sometimes the things we suck at is the things we can be amazing at. We just might be so critical of ourselves that we don't see it that way, or we don't think about it. So I'll use an example from my life. I sucked at school growing up. Absolutely sucked. I worked harder than anybody that I knew, would overstudy, had a tough time retaining information, but I really struggled in school. And so I had to work super hard. But you know what? That work ethic stuck with me. So it sucked. And there's been many times where I've beat myself up, or I'm like, why does it take me so long to learn things? Why can't I retain things? This and that. And I 100% did not see that in high school or college. But as time goes on, it's like, I realize that's given me the grit, the badassery that I have today, is because I will work 10 times harder than anybody else. And so where somebody might have natural talent, I'll outwork them any day. So that's fine. I'm good with that. If it pushed me to outwork people. And it sounds like that's what Jesse allowed it to do for him, is he just kept, even though he failed, he kept going forward. You have a vision or you have a dream. And so you don't just give that up because something hard happens. That hard stuff can help you or help shape you or help you become resilient or be willing to work harder. So I think Jesse and Jeff are so badass because they overcame those setbacks. Now, the second reason why I think that they are so badass is because they are willing to break the rules. I love when they talked about on the episode for Read to Lead how, and it's even in the book, is they're breaking the rules. You don't have to do things the way they were traditionally done. So you don't have to read a book from start to finish. If that's what you want to do, fine. But Jeff also said, you can just pick the chapters that are interesting to you. Figure out what you want to get out of the book. Look at the table of contents and what sparks your interest. Pick those chapters and read those. Maybe that's all you need. Maybe you don't need to read the whole book. Something maybe in chapter 4 and 5 just grabbed your attention. Just read those. It's like, we're not in school anymore. We don't have to do things the ordinary way or the typical way. We can do them our way. You're a badass. You got this. But we got to stop just doing what we think we're expected to do or what's normal. And I'm not preaching to you here because I have to remind myself of this all the time. Like, it's okay to go against the grain. Like, you don't have to be a people pleaser, but it is something that I'm always working on, is I can break the rules. If that's important to me, if something's important, I don't have to do something just because it's how I've always done it or just because it was how I was taught in school. And then in their book, Read to Lead, they also talk about how if you want, you can just do a practice called skimming, and you can figure out what the point of the book is that you want and read the table of contents. And then you go through each chapter and you only read the first word of or the first sentence of a paragraph and the last sentence of a paragraph, and just keep going. Because typically the first sentence and the last sentence of a paragraph have the basic point of the whole paragraph, or you get the gist just from reading that. So they broke the rules. Even Jeff was saying, like, in school, he did not like reading. He didn't think reading was for him. But then as an adult, he found out he could use it for so many things. And I loved that. I thought that was so amazing. So don't be afraid to break the rules, OTBers. Where in your life can you break the rules? Now, I'm not just saying to break them, but I am saying that we don't have to just do something because we believe it's what is normal or what was taught to us as a kid. Maybe you can switch it up a little bit and do it your way. Make it a little bit more fun. If you don't like reading, heck, try their method. Somebody on Instagram messaged me and said, hey, I love this. I only read the last chapter of every book. Amazing, right? It's like skipping dinner and going straight for the dessert. But we have this idea that we have to follow the rules or we have to do it a certain way. So don't. Be like Jesse and Jeff. Break those rules. The third thing that is so badass about Jeff and Jesse is they read books because they said it's like having a cup of coffee with the author. You can get out of your own head and into the author's head. How many times can you just like pick somebody's brain, right? Like, do you actually get to meet them in person or pick their brain, or somebody that you admire, you get to actually find out how they do what they do? Well, if you have a book, it's just like that. Grab a cup of coffee, sit down with a good book, and read it. And it's just like you're picking their brain. You know their thoughts. Usually in a book is going to be the things that somebody thought was super important that you needed to hear. So if there's somebody that you look up to that has written a book, then by all means, read their book. See what it's about. Books are timeless for this. There was a day and age where all people had was books, right? They couldn't go onto Instagram, go onto YouTube, just look things up at their fingertips. But there's something to say about sitting down with a book. I mean, I can't even read it on a Kindle or read it on a iPad or my phone. I want the book in my hands and get all the juicy stuff from it, right? I want to be able to highlight it and write on it. And Jeff had a process for that as well. And not stopping while you're reading, just put an asterisk, he has certain things, certain symbols he does, and then he goes back after he's done reading for 50 minutes or whatever his time is, and then writes notes. But you can have a cup of coffee with the author. You can get out of your own head and into their head and find out what they did for success. Matter of fact, you can even find out how they failed. So that way, you don't have to make the same mistakes that they made. Right? You can learn from their mistakes and from what happened to them. And then you don't have to do that same thing. Reading can absolutely change your life. And they talked about it on the episode, like Jesse did, how it would help him when he's going for a promotion, or maybe he didn't know how to do something, but he read a book or 2 or 3 on it and then was able to move ahead and found himself in places he didn't think he would be in. But it was because he took the effort to go read those books, to become the expert, to find out for himself. Not everybody is willing to do that. So you can separate yourself from the pack by being willing to put in the extra effort. Do some reading, learn on your own. And then even if you don't get the promotion, it still gives you good information, valuable information, and it makes you an asset to whatever business or company that you're a part of. Heck, it even makes you an asset to your friendship circle. So be willing to get a book, have coffee with the author. If there's somebody on social media that you follow all the time and you really like what they're doing, okay, cool. Have they written a book? Can you read it? Go check it out. Maybe you go to the library and check some out, or look at some biographies and learn from those people. But you can absolutely learn from leaders. And, as they said in the podcast, reading can reduce stress and it can make you more decisive. So who doesn't want that? And you can be an action taker, because they talk about taking an action after you read a book and why that's important. I know that I'm kind of rambling on here. I told you I was a book nerd. So all of this stuff was super exciting to me, but don't be afraid to pick up a book, learn from an author, and then figure out what your takeaways are or how you can apply those things in life. More than once, but I think Napoleon Hill talks about reading a book and only reading 1 page a day, and then just really contemplating on that book. Reading it, soaking it all in, just that 1 page, and then you're like, oh, how can I apply this to my life today? How could I have applied this to my life, yesterday or earlier in the day? How can I apply this to my life tomorrow? And then really just sit there and, I almost said let it marinate, but that's not right, but just think about it for a minute, right? And really when you're reflecting on those things and applying it to your daily life, then that helps it stick with you a little bit more. And there are certain books that I want to go back and do that with. I'm not going to tell you I'm great at doing this. I always want to do it, but then I'm like, I'm just going to keep reading. But no, like Jack Canfield's Success Principles, definitely do it with that book. I love that book. And The Magic of Thinking Big. I absolutely love that book. You know what? The Untethered Soul. That's the 3rd book. I recently read that and absolutely loved it. It's all about your thinking. Okay, I'm going off the rails here. I seem to be ADD today, but that's okay. Quick recap on the episode. Jeff and Jesse are so badass because they both had setbacks and they didn't let that stop them. They used that to propel them forward. The second thing is they're not afraid to break the rules. And the third thing is they use reading or use books to have a conversation or a cup of coffee with the author and get out of your own head. So badass. Man, if you like the last episode with Jeff and Jesse, definitely get on their social media or go to their website and let them know what you thought. It's so important that you say, hey, that episode was so amazing. It taught me this. I never knew this was okay. Like, I never knew that reading chapter 3, 4, and 5 was okay and not read the whole book. But let them know the impact that they had on you. Let them know what they taught you, what you learned, how you're applying it in your life. Always super important to give people feedback so that they know the impact that they're having in this world. And as badasses, I kind of feel like that's our responsibility. So make sure that you let Jeff Brown and Jesse Wisnewski know what you thought of the book Read to Lead or what you thought of their episode. I think that's super important. With that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future Spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.